Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Inside the Pigskin. Yes, it looks a little different tonight. I am sitting in Scott's shoes. I have big shoes to fill, guys. Hopefully, I'll be able to, measure up.
You'll do just
You
fine.
will. You'll do great.
He set the bar very low.
And you're prettier to look at.
Aw, thanks. Well, let's introduce the panel. To my right or left, depending on how you're looking at the screen, I have Mel Farr Jr. Welcome back, Mel.
Great to be back.
Thank
Still
you.
kicking it in the Caribbean.
Look at that screen. Yes.
Nice.
We all wish we were there, right? And then we have Jen sitting in with the piano. Miss Jen Lewis.
Yes. Hello.
Welcome. Thank you. Down a little downstairs, let's put it that way, we have Rick Curdy, aka Mr. Opinion.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good, good, good. And then last but definitely not least, we have Mr. Steve Ballesteri.
Good evening, everyone. I hope we have a good show tonight, and we finally had a chance to see you on screen. You're always the lady behind the curtain.
I am, except if you catch me on Tuesday nights on Chicks and Salsa. We started a new podcast, and it's me and some girls, and we're lighting it up, right, Jen?
We are. Because a certain four-letter network may have stolen our other idea, but that's all right.
Yes, yes. Well, we're going to talk tonight. We're going to talk some Inside the Pigskin. So let's start it out tonight. We're going to talk about home field advantage. Is it still home field advantage? I did a little research, and it has gone decreased. They used to say home field advantage at least gave you at least 3 points, spotted you 3 points. They say now the average is down to 1.7 over the last 5-10 years. They say the difference has been somewhat because of, any guesses?
COVID?
Parity, but also they say that traveling is much more comfortable these days, so it's not as hard to travel. They say that they even employ sleep specialists to help you cope with changing time zones and all of that. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Mel, what do you think about home field advantage?
Well, it's not just the travel that plays a part of it. It's also the noise, the crowd noise, depending on where you play. I think some stadiums have a more decisive home field advantage than others. Of course, except for the Lions at Ford Field, where they haven't won a home game for a while. But yeah, I think you play in some places, whether it's Seattle, Kansas City, some of those loud stadiums, and you can see, especially, you can feel that energy, especially when things are going well for that team for the home team. Very difficult for the opposing team to call plays on the offensive side of the ball. You'll see a lot of pre-snap penalties. So there's still something to say for home field advantage, having that home field advantage. But I understand what you're saying as far as making the travel a little bit easier on players now, where they're not as fatigued when they get off the plane. But you still have to deal with a hostile environment, and there's some hostile environments throughout the league.
Which would you say is one of the most hostile places to play?
Well, Philadelphia is hostile for a variety of reasons. It's hostile because it's a hostile environment. It's hostile because the folks there aren't very nice either. So that's a tough place to play. But Kansas City's a tough place to play when they get on a roll. Seattle's a difficult place to play when they get on a roll. Any dome stadium when a team gets on a roll is very difficult to play because it is the noise can be very, very deafening. But I would have to say, the place I'd have to say probably like Seattle.
Okay, Jen, what's your take on home field advantage?
I think it does still, I think it plays a part in it.
Okay.
I mean, just from a fan perspective, I am that girl that I hate it when opposing fans come into my stadium, my arena. I don't like it. I hate it at Spectrum Center. I hate it at Bank of America Stadium. And I will never understand these imbeciles, and I'm sorry, that come into a stadium or arena wearing a jersey of a team that's not on the field. Like, what's up with that? Like, legit, what's up with that?
It might be the only jersey they have.
Then don't wear a jersey, wear a polo, wear a long sleeve sweatshirt. I don't care. But don't walk into Baltimore Ravens game versus Philadelphia Eagles wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey. First of all, you're going to get your butt beat. But like, really, like, anyway, I think there's a pro for that because you've got the home field love in most cases. Personally, I was grateful for our 49er fans showing up at Bank of America Stadium a couple of weeks ago. But usually I don't like it. So, but I think there's an advantage for it.
Rick, your thoughts of home field advantage?
Yeah, I'm old school. I always think that when you get home field advantage in the playoffs, it's always a good advantage. But recently, I mean, you've seen teams like Green Bay lose, where that place was like nobody wanted to go there. It was an old stadium. It was freezing, and look what the Jets did. They beat Green Bay. That's a very hostile environment as well. And so I think a lot of these teams have just gotten better. I think that going on the road now is not as hard for a lot of these teams, guys, because I think they condition themselves to say that, we're going to go there, we're going to beat them. And I think, yeah, like you said, traveling's gotten easier now. These flights are so quick now. And but I still think it plays an advantage. But a lot of these teams have gotten better over the years on the road.
Steve, home field advantage.
I'm still a believer in home field advantage. I really am, because when I look at it, if you're a good football team and you've been a good football team for a while, your stadium is a tough place to play. And Mel mentioned Seattle. That place gets like louder than a jet airplane coming in for a landing. Pittsburgh's always been a tough place to play, even though they're not a great team right now. That place gets loud. And, when opponents get down in one end of the stadium down there, it's very difficult for them to hear their signals. And that's like that in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. So I'm still a believer in it. I mean, granted, it's not as big as advantage as it once was, but in certain places it is. I think that, the better football teams have a definite home field advantage.
I would say, I think partly home field advantage might play a part, especially when you have a cold weather team versus a warm weather team. So,
or
like
vice versa.
Vice versa, right? Like if the Detroit Lions are coming down, if they would come down to Miami and it's hot, it's the beginning of the season, they might not be as conditioned, or later in the season when they're used to it being, 10 degrees outside, and yet they're down in Miami and it's 80, 85 degrees. So I think you find sometimes a lot of injuries, hamstrings, they're not, that advantage might go out. That might play a role, especially then.
Or you play in Denver where the air is thin. I mean, Denver had
the altitude
home field advantage for a long time. People perceived that to be a home field advantage because of the thin air, and that's something that they relied on. Even when we were at UCLA, we played down in the Valley in Pasadena, and it would get hot down there. It would get real hot down there, and that we use that to our advantage as well.
Good point. Let's switch it over to: is it harder to coach in college or in the NFL? We're going to start with Steve this time.
Yes, the answer is yes. Yeah, I think it's kind of a mix, because in certain ways it's harder to coach in the NFL because usually if you get hired as a head coach, that means the team is usually pretty bad. And, it used to be coaches would come in, create a new culture, build a team up and go from there. Now, a lot of owners, they demand, a full recovery overnight. They want to see a winner on the field the next season. But in college, I mean, every 4 years, you have a whole new football team. So in college, I think it goes to, you have to really recruit well, and there's certain schools and coaches that do that extremely well. But you're turning your roster over every 4 years. So in that manner, I think coaching in college is really difficult. Plus the fact that same thing in college. I mean, these big football teams, you get Alabama, Georgia. I'm going to say UCLA for Mel, but they demand, a national championship game every season. And if they don't make the championship game, it's not considered a great year. So I think it's a little bit of a mix. I would say I think it might be a little more difficult in the NFL because when in college, where the players tend to be a little bit younger and the coaches have a lot more control. In the NFL, you're dealing with grown men and you have to be able to reach them and get them to buy in. That's something I've learned from Bill Belichick. He always says the hardest thing as a coach is to get the team to completely buy in.
Okay, Mr. Rick, is it harder to coach in college or NFL?
I would say the NFL, because in the NFL, you got to deal with multimillionaire adults who are looking at like it doesn't matter if Nick Saban goes there. He didn't do very well. Urban Meyer, he didn't do very well. A lot of these college coaches that come to the NFL don't do good. Matt Rule didn't do very well. And there's only been 3 head coaches to win the Super Bowl. And one of them, Barry Switzer, took over Jimmy Johnson's loaded team. So it's really 2, in my opinion. So to me, it would be much more difficult to coach in the NFL because you have these prima donnas, multimillionaires, celebrities, because now they're like celebrities because they do other things like TV and movies and things like that. And they're going to come in there and they're going to be like, who are you, Urban Meyer? Who are you, Nick Saban? We don't care what you did in college. This is the pros. So, you can go home. So if they don't buy into that, and there's a reason they go back to college. So to me, yeah, as difficult as college is, I would say the NFL is harder.
Jen, is it harder in the NFL or in college?
You got to, honestly, Mel will be able to elaborate more on this since he obviously played in both.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got 2 different styles of coaches because in college, like your Urban Meyers, your Matt Rules, your Nick Sabans, you're kind of more bully-esque and you do as I say. And like Steve said, you have to, in the NFL, you have to get the players to buy in because to Rick's point, at this point, you've made your dream come true. You're making that money. You're living the rock star lifestyle. You're, Mr. Hollywood, in Kansas City or in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you're making them Benjamins, but you still have to work. So it's 2 different stuff. I don't know. That's a tough question, Candy, because it's 2 totally different styles of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
I never said I was going to make it easy, Jen. I never said it.
And you didn't. So I don't know. I mean, because there's pros and cons to both. So
I agree.
I mean, I would dare say college is probably more difficult just from a scouting standpoint and a recruiting standpoint. Because what if you miss that one superstar because they were out sick when your scouts were watching that high school game that day?
Okay. Mel, since you've played in both, what is your opinion? Is it harder to coach in college or NFL?
It's a great question. I feel like Jen, both of them have their pros and cons. As a college coach, you're really you are the head of the program. There's a lot of things that you have to deal with as far as recruiting, the staff, all those things really fall under your purview. Whereas a head coach, for the most part, head coaches in the NFL are tasked with just coaching the team. You have people above you that are in charge of, you got a scouting department, you have a general manager that's in charge of the draft. You may have some input on it, but they're going to make that decision between general manager and owner. They're going to make the decision as far as who they're going to draft. And then, you have salary cap people to try to help you fit and put those pieces together. So that's on the administrative side of it. The coaching side of it, just the pure coaching side of it, I would probably say it's probably more difficult to coach in the NFL than it would be in college, because I think you can demand and command a certain amount of respect from an 18, 19, 20-year-olds more so than you can get, than you can demand from grown men. And as Rick was talking about, a lot of college coaches have tried to take their game to the NFL level, and it hasn't worked. But then there's been coaches that have done it and have been successful at it as well too. So, but it's difficult because your coaching style has to be different. You can't harp on these guys the same way that you harp on 17, 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids. You really have to get into coaching them, and you really have to be into teaching them. And again, like I think I heard Rick talk about, you got to get these guys to buy in, because if they don't buy in, you can just forget about it. You'll be out so quick, you'll have you swimming in the head. So, but I think probably the NFL game is probably more difficult to coach than the college game.
I would agree with that. I like that this discussion. I think the transfer portal has not helped college coaches though either, because it's easier now for kids to jump ship and say, I want to transfer to a different team. And so your point where we were talking about how the college, you have them for 4 years, you might not have them for 4 years now. You might only have them for one, and then you're more one and done going to a different program. So I think recruiting wise, I think it definitely is harder for the college, but I think coaching wise, I would agree NFL, because they're making lots more money. They, like you said, they're older, they're more mature. They're some of them might be a little more set in their ways too. Whereas in college, they need somebody to help them get to that next level that they want to get to. So maybe they're more apt to listen to their coach, I would say.
Can I say something real quick?
Of course.
Okay, so based on the portal, the first year, yes, and I'm basing this on what I was told for basketball. But the second year, the coaching staffs and basketball were able to figure out how to draft better, obviously, and how to pick and choose and recruit better from the portal. I am assuming the same is true for football. And that way they were able to get people who fit more in tune with their programs, and those people who really weren't fitting in and getting the most they could were able to go to other universities that they could get the most out of theirs.
Well, I think all these kids are coddled now. They all obviously all played, but there's something to say about competing. We had a lot of guys that, we were stacked at UCLA. We had a lot of guys at UCLA, and yeah, we all got upset. I wanted to transfer. So if the transfer portal was available, I would have transferred after my freshman year, and that probably would have been the worst thing that I could have done, because there's something to say about competing. None of these guys want to compete, especially at the quarterback position. All these guys want to be given the job, and that's why you see so many players in the transfer portal. Now the transfer portal is going to hold the coaches accountable. I mean, and I'm all for, if a coach leaves, the coach that recruited you, he leaves and goes somewhere else, and you should have the opportunity to leave. But also it's going to hold the coaches accountable for everything that they say. Now, you have to hold up your end as a player, and you have to be everything that they thought you were going to be. And if you're not out there competing and you don't win the starting job, you can't pout and say, well, I'm just going to take my ball and leave and go somewhere else. I mean, but that's what a lot of these guys do, and they don't necessarily end up going to another Division I program. They may step down and go to a Division II or whatever they call it, FBS school or whatever the case may be. But The transfer portal has its pros and cons. I have problems with the transfer portal.
I think part of it is the standards that each college puts on their players as well. Like going to Wisconsin, you have to have your academic level is a different level than maybe some of the other schools as well. So I think that plays all into this. Is very interesting conversation. Liking it, guys.
Which is why Vanderbilt will never win the SEC.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
all right, but any day that Alabama gets beat is a good day in college football.
It's some competitive teams, but yeah, it'll be very, very difficult for Vandy to run the table. Very difficult.
Well, we have a comment here. Mr. Scott is actually eating dinner in Dayton, Ohio at Big Boy, and he just wanted to say hi to everybody. He's
Hi, Scott.
Hello, Scott.
What's
so
up, bro?
my next question is, we're going to talk Brady and Rodgers. Will both of them win another Super Bowl? Will one of them win another Super Bowl, or will neither of them win another Super Bowl? We're going to start with Rick this time.
None of them will win another Super Bowl. They're done. I mean, they just, like I said, this year they look tired. They look old. Brady should have retired when he won the Super Bowl. If that was me and I got the Lombardi with Tampa Bay, and Jim Nantz said, "What are you going to do next?" "I'm retiring, dude. I'm out of here. Bye. See me in the Hall of Fame." He would have gone out, like on his horse, right in the sunset. But his ego just can't help himself. And now look at him now. He retired, unretired. And I just think his teams have just stopped listening to him because, the tantrums he throws, these, not showing up to practice and having these off days to himself. Rodgers doesn't look good at all as well. He got all his money. They don't have the players that he needs. Rodgers has a history. I'm sorry, Candy, of choking in the playoffs. He choked last year. He chokes a lot, and I don't see him winning it. And I just think he's right now. He made his money. He knows he's going to the Hall of Fame. Right now, he's too busy trying to be like Nicolas Cage, which I don't know what that's about. So he's got all these other things going on. I think like restaurants and all this other dating all these movie stars and all that stuff. So I think he's good now with himself. But both of them will not win a Super Bowl. Retiring, I think Brady's going to come back another year, to be quite honest. I just think he's so upset that this year's gone so bad for him. He wants to redeem himself. But for them to win a Super Bowl, neither of them will win another Super Bowl.
Jen, your thoughts?
I have so many on this topic. Okay. First of all, Aaron Rodgers just needs to go ahead and retire. I'm sorry.
No,
He lied.
Right.
I think the fact that he lied, the fact that he played victim even after he won the MVP, and he lied, and he still played victim after he won MVP because he lied. And I don't care that he didn't get vaccinated. Don't lie. You're putting your NFL brothers at risk. You lied. I don't care what you do with your body. It's your body. Don't tell me what to do with mine. I won't tell you what to do with yours. But you lied. I have a problem with that. And then you play victim. I have a problem with that. I feel like Aaron needs to decide which way he's going to go. Yeah, he hasn't been given the supporting cast for years. He has been given the supporting cast, the supporting members he needs. He did ask for too much money. I think we talked about this, Candy. I think you said this, actually, that he got too much money. He had wanted too much money, and that's part of why Devontae Adams wanted to go play with Derek again. So, because Raiders would pay him. And he got to go play with his old college buddy. That's not working out so well. But whatever. Tom, interesting take. I think he should have stayed retired. I knew when he retired. I said this in the sideline chat. I made everybody mad. I said he's not retired yet. Watch and see. I think the divorce rumors are actually a cover. I think his mom may be sick again. And because if he had retired and gone into broadcasting, he still wouldn't be home because he still didn't go to training camp. So he would have still been on the road. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's nonsensical. And that's just my 2 cents. Do I think they're going to win a Super Bowl? No. I think Tom thought he was. I think Tom will probably retire this year if his mother's health is better. I hope I'm wrong on his mom's health being bad, but I think that's what it is, because I believe in 2015, when his mom's health was really bad, he and Giselle put out divorce rumors then too, to take the heat off of his mom's health. Steve can probably confirm or negate that statement, but I feel like we've seen this before. And I mean, props to them for protecting mom and dad. Seriously. But yeah, and Tom pissed away his own Super Bowl last year when he said the week before the championship game that, of course, I'm Tom Brady. Of course, I get calls under other quarterback don't get. We all know it. You don't say it. Like, you don't say it. You just the idiocracy sometimes, people. The idiocracy. Like, and I'm defending Tom. Tom doesn't have the sporting cast. He was stupid for picking Todd Bowles to be his head coach. Whatever. But I do think we've seen, and it's been proven, that Tom and Bill need each other.
Okay, so you don't think either one of them?
No.
Okay, Mel, your thoughts?
I think Tom Brady will win another one, depending on how much longer he plays. I don't know how this year is looking, but I think, that they have. I mean, you look at the quarterback play around the league. You look at the teams and how they're playing. I mean, you got teams right now that are leading divisions that were very, very terrible teams. You got Philadelphia, that's playing very well right now. The Giants are playing very well right now. Philadelphia hasn't been terrible, but they haven't been all that great the last few years. The Giants have been terrible, and you look at their division. I mean, they're in a division with quarterbacks P.J. Walker, Marcus Mariota, and Darnold. I mean, he should be able to win that division, and all he's got to do is go on a good little run for 3 or 4 games. The next thing you know, he's holding up the Lombardi Trophy again. So I think he has the best opportunity out of the two. Now, Aaron Rodgers really, he really gets on my nerves. I was watching the game. He got knocked down one time. Lineman missed the block and sacked him, and the lineman, being cordial, went to put his hand out to help him up, and he just ignored him. And that to me just shows me the type of person that Aaron Rodgers is. Yeah, okay, you may be upset by the fact that that he missed the block and you got sacked, but the guy, is trying to help you up. The least you can do is extend your hand out and acknowledge the fact that he is trying to help you up. And in these comments that he made to Pat McAfee about players, Aaron Rodgers has a very entitled stance right now. His behavior reflects that. He was pouting because they traded up to draft Jordan Love, and he was pouting, and the Green Bay Packers acquiesced. And he knows he has them right where he wants them. He knows that they're not too sure about Jordan Love. He went out there and had an MVP season, followed that up with another MVP season, but they're not winning. If I were the Packers, and the record is the way that it is right now, I'd find out what I have in Jordan Love and just sit him down, send him home, really, because he can't be good for the morale for the young, particularly the younger players. If you're trying to develop younger players and he's calling them out the way that he's calling them out, and then saying that, he invites or he welcomes conflict. Who really likes conflict? Especially a young kid out of Nevada, Reno, or something like that, who is just trying to feel his way around the NFL. He's been watching Aaron Rodgers for years, and he's going to go up and say, Aaron, I think you're wrong about this, or you're wrong about. He doesn't know what it takes to win in that league. Aaron Rodgers does, and he needs to go about his business and leading a little differently, not taking it to the media and talking to these players. He could have helped out by going to training camp or going to mini camps and stuff like that to get himself familiar with these younger players, as opposed to now not having any kind of chemistry with them and throwing him under the bus every chance that he gets.
I agree. Good takes. Okay, Steve.
Well, this year I don't think either one of them is going to win anything, and I really believe that Brady's going to retire. I think Aaron Rodgers probably will as well, because they're both very frustrated at the way things are going. They're both used to winning a lot of games, and they're not doing it right now. Although Tampa with 3 and 4 is still on top of their division. So
Weak division. Yep.
yeah. So go figure. But yeah, I really think, I think both of them can still play at a high level. They just don't have the teams around them that they're used to, and in Rodgers' case,
Aaron Rodgers takes all the money. He's not going to have all
yeah,
Yep.
that's
expect
what
to
I was
have
just going to say. In his case, he eats up so much of the salary cap that limits how much his team can build around him. Brady always took less, so the team would pay other guys to come in. Now they never brought in superstars. They brought in lunch pail guys, but guys who fit their system. So that was the difference. They used to call it the Patriots middle class guys, because other than Randy Moss, when Brady was with New England, he never had a true number one wide receiver. I mean, they won Super Bowls with guys like David Patton, Deion Branch, Chris Hogan. I mean, none of those guys are going in the Hall of Fame. They brought in Gronkowski, who will be, but that's kind of the outlier there. So I think
Gronk came back to play with Brady, right? That was the main reason. Gronk came back just to play with Brady because they're best friends, right?
Down in Tampa, yep.
Yeah.
But
Sorry for interrupting you, Steve.
A lot of people are saying he's going to come back this year.
He won't help.
Why would he?
Yeah, I mean, but first of all, how is he going to help? I mean, the first thing he's going to do is pull a hamstring. I mean, he hasn't been to training. We don't know what Gronk has been doing.
Yeah,
that's
a great question. What has Gronk been doing?
Weed and cigarettes.
Yeah,
partying. A lot of partying.
And then all of a sudden, you think you're just going to turn on a light switch and get out there and play professional football? The first thing you're going to do is pull a hamstring.
Well, and,
right.
And why would he want to go back there? I mean, the team's a mess right now.
Yeah.
They need more than Gronkowski, So, but to Jen's comment earlier, the divorce stuff is real. That's real.
It is.
Yes. Because she's been worried about his health, which tells you she knows more than any of the sports writers, because she sees him. So he's probably had concussions that have gone unreported. He's probably had other stuff, and that was her whole thing, was she was worried about his health.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's about her getting her way. He plays the safest position you can play on the football field.
That's very true.
I mean, you can't get in.
I'd say the kicker is probably the safest position.
Okay, all right. Other than the kicker and maybe the holder.
Yeah, the holder. Yeah, that's the job I want. Just the guy that holds
I know,
it.
right? I can do the placeholder too.
But no, I mean, she put everything on the back burner for him for a very long time.
I think that's more reason why she's upset than anything.
Yeah. That I can see.
They had a deal. He was supposed to retire, and then she was going to go resume her career, and he reneged on it. And I think they've been having problems for a while. And I think that was like the final straw for her. Would say, you know what, you reneged.
Again,
and she's probably telling him, why are you doing this, dude? You're the greatest quarterback. You have nothing to prove. Why are you doing this? And it's his ego. You just can't stop it.
She could still do her career. That's why they have nannies, au pairs, whatever. She could. I mean, unless she just wanted to be involved day to day with them. But I doubt that she, with that kind of money, I doubt that they're involved day to day. But she could have still done. She could have still did what she wanted to do. I think it's just a matter of her. She wants her way, and she's pouting.
Exactly.
And Tom wants his way. And he's not budging. So
he's not ready.
First loses.
he's not ready to give up because he knows once he gives up, he's done. And so he wants to hold on as long as he possibly can.
Absolutely. I mean, you can dip your toe back into modeling and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Elon Musk's mom is, 70 years old, and she was on the cover or something like that. I mean, you can always get, you can go back and forth with modeling. You can't go back and forth with football. Once it's done, it's done.
Right.
I think Tom Brady's going through a midlife crisis. I really do. I think he is terrified of getting old. And I think, have you seen how he's dressed with his cap backwards and shorts and long t-shirt? He looks like a 20-year-old. He's trying to dress like a 20-year-old.
Florida guy.
And, he's going through a midlife crisis. I'm Tom's age. So, and the aches and pains that you go through, and I don't play football, and I just think it's, I just wouldn't be surprised if he comes back another season because his ego won't allow him to go out like this, where if he did go out like this, nobody's gonna care. I mean,
I would agree with you, except for the fact I don't think Gronk will come back.
No, and
I think Gronk
losing
quitting,
Gronk and the Dominican Sue was
I mean,
the worst.
Steve, you know these guys, so do you think Gronk will
I
ever
don't know
come back?
Personally, I mean, I've been around.
Well, you've
them.
written about them for years. Do you think Gronk will come back to the NFL?
No.
I think Gronk is on the phone with Tom being, dude, you got to hang it up. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think this might be Tom's
get that money. That's what he's telling him. Get that money. Gronk plays a much more physical position than Tom does.
Yeah, but Tom's going to make more money as a broadcaster, and he has that job lined up.
Yeah, but it's not the same. It's playing.
Yeah. He's not the man there. He's not going to be the main man. He wants to be the main man. He wants to be the Freddie Mercury, and he doesn't want to be Brian May on the sidelines, with his guitar.
Remember,
he wants to be in the spotlight.
And Mel can speak to this. The guys that reach that high level in that profession are driven. It's not about being a superstar or anything like that. It's about being driven to succeed, and that's what still drives him. He still has that drive to play. If it was up to him, he'd play football till he was 80.
But that's the thing. That's what's missing from him this year. That drive, that passion. I don't see the
passion's
he looks
there.
old. He looks old.
When you're going through the stuff he's going through right now, those distractions hit home. You have to be totally into what you're doing. You have to be.
His mind is telling him one thing, but his body is saying another.
Father Time is catching up to him.
Mel
Father
just
Time is
nailed
caught up
that.
to him.
Yeah.
His mind is saying, I can continue to do this. His body's saying, man, we need to go into the house.
He needs a Bengay. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
However,
that's a
I am
tough
going to say
thing.
this one thing in defense of my Panthers. Our defense was on their offense like white on rice. Rick, I haven't seen our guys on any offense like they were on Tampa Bay since Matt Rule took over.
That rule's a joke.
I'm so freaking glad, and I'm so proud of myself for not dropping the other album right there. That Rule is gone, and Steve Wilkes is back. I'm giving myself a pat on the back for not dropping the other F-bomb. But that's what it was. It was like, honestly, everybody knows Tampa's wasn't there. Our D has had the talent. Our D was on freaking point. Steve Wilkes has took a bunch of random guys playing ball and made them a team in 2 weeks.
Okay, Jen, it's one game. Let's not get excited. This is what you did with
I'm
the
excited
line.
about not one
we
game,
have nothing
not
to cheer
winning.
about for a while now.
Not winning the one game. I'm excited about seeing the team.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I'm excited about. I don't care about the win. I'm excited about the team performance. Does that make sense? Because I hadn't seen that since Ron left.
We'll circle back in a couple of weeks and we'll see where we're at. The funny thing about Tom is the exact opposite as most players. I was talking about his mind and body aren't in sync. Generally, for players, the mind is the first thing to go. The body is still good for the most part, but mentally, you just say, "Man, I don't want that hit no more. I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to do that. I don't want to work out anymore. I don't want to hit the weights. I don't want to do all the things. I don't want to practice." But physically, you can still do it. at a high level, but mentally you just don't want to do it. The fact that Tom's been able to keep his mind and body in sync for this long a period of time, that's what really amazes me, because I know at a certain time, at a certain age, like, man, I don't want that lit. And he's still at 45, and he doesn't mind, even though he does play a very safe position. He doesn't mind going out there and putting his body at risk, and also doing what you need to do to prepare in order to do what he does on Sundays.
Takes time away from his kids, his
Yep.
family. I get it. It's tough. And that's where he's very different than Rodgers, because Rodgers doesn't have that family, the
He needs
marriage,
to get
kids, all that. Rodgers, as much as I like him as a quarterback, he is too much into himself and his attitude and calling out everybody else but himself. With that, let's talk. Let me give a little station identification. You are watching us hopefully live on South Florida Tribune. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go see our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you'd like to email us any questions or comments, please do so at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you'd like to advertise, call 954-304-4941. Let's go to intriguing matchups this week, whether it be a college game or an NFL game. Let's start with Jen this time.
You're going to be proud of me. I'm going totally out of my wheelhouse.
All right. Let's see.
I'm going to go with Ole Miss at Texas A&M.
Okay.
I think that'll be a good matchup. I think it'll be a good game.
Okay. Rick?
Oh, I have Buffalo and Green Bay. That's going to be an intriguing matchup to me. I want to see. I think it'll be a passing of the torch of Aaron Rodgers. Buffalo looks great. Josh Allen looks like the MVP right now. They're playing on all cylinders right now. Will this be the passing of the torch of Aaron Rodgers? We'll see. But I think Buffalo's going to totally skunk them. And we'll see your buddy Aaron Rodgers with a bigger pout, but he'll blame everybody just like he usually does because he's a spoiled brat. But I have Buffalo winning that game. But it's going to be intriguing to see what Green Bay can do or cannot do.
Passing the torch.
Yeah.
You better go to Tampa to pass the torch.
Well, I mean,
But I agree. I think that's going to be a fun game to watch.
Steve, we might as well go to you. Is that what's your intriguing matchup?
I think this week in California, the Rams and the 49ers, I think that's going to be a really fun one to watch. There's a lot of interstate rivalry there. I'm interested to see what Christian McCaffrey can do against the Rams. The Rams haven't been their dominant self this year. So this will be a good matchup for both teams. I think it's going to be a fun game. It'll probably go down to the wire, I think, this week.
Mel, what's your intriguing matchup this week?
I didn't even think about that, Steve. I like that matchup. That should be an intriguing game, especially the way the two teams have been playing this year. Other than Penn State and Ohio State, I am intrigued by that matchup because I want to see if James Franklin can finally get over the hump. They got steamrolled by Michigan a couple weeks ago. Now they got Ohio State. Like to see what they're going to do. But I'm actually intrigued by the game that's on right now because obviously there's a lot on the line here. Lamar, he's playing for a contract, and Tom Brady's obviously trying to keep his team afloat right now. And either one of these teams loses today, it could be very difficult for the rest of the season. I mean, we're not at the beginning of the season anymore. We're right in the middle, right in the meat, in the teeth of the season. And this game is a very, very important game to both teams. To both quarterbacks in particular. Like I said, Lamar's playing for a contract. Tom, he put all his chips in the middle. He put all his chips in the middle. Wife, kids, they're gone, and so he's putting all his chips in the middle, and it's all or nothing. So I'm actually intrigued by this game here. To be honest with you, the quarterback's going to play. Tom hasn't played very well. Lamar hasn't played very well. They've had some leads. They've given up the leads late. And so I'm actually, interested to see how this game is going to turn out.
I like all of those. My intriguing game of the week is overseas, over yonder. Let's go over to London. I know this matchup doesn't sound like it probably is very good. The Broncos against the Jaguars. They're both 2-5 teams, but I think somebody's going to step up. I really want to see the Jags. I really want to see Trevor Lawrence step up and have a good game. I really hope him with Peterson under Peterson's wing really takes a float. He had a tumultuous first year, let's face it. Uh, I think we don't know if Russell Wilson, he's questionable with the hamstring, whether he's going to go or not. I think it'll be interesting. I really am trying to root for the Jags. I really think they've had real tough luck the last couple of years. So I'm hoping that is a better game, although most Thursday nights lately haven't been intriguing games. So Mel, it's happy to see that tonight, hopefully it's going to be a good game. I don't know if anybody has an update on the score or anything like that. Anybody watching? No? Okay. So let's start out with our parting shots. Let's start with Steve. What's your parting shot for the week?
Well, I'm looking at the NFL. It seems lately after the Tua fiasco down in Miami with the concussions and whatnot, teams are being a lot more conservative about rushing guys back. It seems lately. They're all saying, well, he passed the protocol, but maybe we're going to let him sit another week. And I think that's a good thing because you don't want to see guys' livelihood and their post-career get threatened by so many concussions. One of the offensive linemen that I covered up in New England said every snap is like getting into a head-on car collision when you're going against a nose tackle. And that's probably pretty apt. So I'm glad to see that the NFL and the coaches around the league are beginning to be a little bit more conservative about rushing guys back. I think it's needed.
Sounds good. Jen, your parting shot.
Okay, mine's kind of political, but it's not meant to be. So last night during that very famous debate up in Pennsylvania, apparently the one that is a doctor was mocking the one that had a stroke. The one that was a doctor is mocking the one that had a stroke. In no way, shape, or form is that acceptable at all. Like, that's just not cool. You're a medical professional. You're making fun of somebody who has a medical ailment. Yo, check yourself. Like, seriously, just check yourself. Like, that's not cool. Like, go hang out with Brett Favre, okay? Like, go down to Mississippi, hang out with him, steal money from the state of Mississippi, welfare fund, go do your thing, whatever. But don't make fun of the people. Just don't. Like, it's not cool. Like, weren't you raised better than that? What would your mother think?
Okay, Mel, your parting shot.
Well, my Bruins lost last week, so it was a tough week, but everything is still in front of us. We can still work our way. We're not even talking about the playoff championship or anything like that. We can still win the Pac-12, and then after that, wherever the chips fall is where they fall. If we have an opportunity to play, opportunity to get into the championship series, great. If not, it's still a successful season. So, just wishing, hoping that they don't allow this to have a domino effect. They did play very, very hard, played very well. Defensively, they got to get a little bit more stout on the defensive side of the ball. Didn't have very many stops on the defensive side of the ball, made it very difficult. Oregon came out with an onside kick, and that kind of messed up the math because they were kind of going touchdown for touchdown. Then all of a sudden, Oregon surprised them with that onside kick, and that got them an extra possession. You kind of felt whoever had the ball last was going to end up winning that game. But I've watched UCLA so many times get behind, cut off the TV, go to sleep, wake up in the morning like, how did they come back from 2 or 3 touchdowns back? Down. I just knew it was over. The way they looked, how they're behaving, just their body movement. They just look defeated, and they come back and win the game. So, we're cheering on our Bruins this weekend. We took one on the chin last week, but we'll be back bigger, better, and stronger, and better for it.
There you go. Rick, your parting shot.
David Tepper, you haven't really done much, in Charlotte since you've got here. I know you brought restaurants and music to our city, and I want to say thank you. I'm being sarcastic, of course. But one thing that you have done that people can really be happy with is firing Matt Rule. He needed to go. David, one little thing I can say, don't sign a rookie NFL coach to a 7-year deal. You owe him $40 million. But you know what? I know you got the money. So he's gone. Thank you for bringing Steve Wilkes, a Charlotte native, went to school in Charlotte. And since he's been there, and I know it's only been one game, they have played much better. Getting rid of Robbie Anderson, that set a tone there that he didn't play any nonsense. People are sad to see McCaffrey go, but, it was time. We need to rebuild. But, Mr. Tepper, you want to do something great? No coach searching. We got our coach right here in Steve Wilkes. He got screwed in Arizona with 1 year. That is not acceptable. Now he's back home. They're playing much better, and I think he's the right coach for the Panthers. We need Steve Wilkes as the head coach of the Panthers.
And my parting shots, it actually Mel took it a little bit earlier. My parting shot is Aaron Rodgers. You need to keep your mouth shut in the media about your other players, your teammates. They are your teammates. You need to help mold them if they are rookies. You do not need to talk down to them in the media. You do not need to talk or call any of them out. You need to be a teammate and rally your team because you want your teammates to help you win games, not lose games. With that, thanks everybody. This has been another edition of Inside the Pigskin. Hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Visit us at southfloridatribune.com. Listen to the audio portion on our podcast on our iHeartRadio, Apple, Google Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you next week, everyone. Have a great week of football.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.